Hello, hello, hello. Today is September the 29th. Trading and investing of any kind carries risk. Everything discussed here is for entertainment purposes only and not to be taken as financial advice because I don't give advice. So, I have been gone for a week. I am back. I am tired and I woke up late. I actually missed that first move down in the market today, and that's okay. So, let's talk about just kind of a sideways day, a bit of an inside day. I mean, it was a pretty, unless you understand how to play moves like this, I mean, I don't think I would have traded. So there are several things that I look at on a day like today. So usually what happens, there's not a lot of momentum. So what you tend to see is smaller patterns that set up larger patterns. So what I was looking to happen today was something like this. And then to set up, the midpoint, because you need at least a 38.2% retrace to kind of set up the next pattern if you think that it's going to turn into, maybe a larger pattern or something like that. So what I was hoping was going to happen is we would set up here, this pattern would fail, which it did. And then we would have the next pattern that would play out, which would be something like this, which would possibly fail, and then maybe set up a bigger pattern, like this or something. So that's kind of what I looked for today. And so one of the things I did today, which, hasn't happened since I started making these videos that I can recall, is that I actually got in a trade that went against me. And so I'll show you where the trade was and kind of why I got into it. And, all the while keeping in mind that, I've been gone for a week or so. So I didn't plan to trade anything crazy today anyway. So at this point here, I was really looking for this to do that, which it did. And I was looking for it to push a little more, but it failed. So then the next thing I was looking for, now that we had this piece right here, I was looking for this bigger play kind of take shape. And I looked for the reversal to be right around in here, which is where it stopped. And it stopped there for good reason because of the potential, the retrace that was there. I think it was an 88.6, if I recall correctly. Maybe 78.6, 88. I can't remember. It was one of those. And so, I saw what looked to be a decent reversal zone. Now, the volume was meh, but it was a slow day. So what I had actually entered the trade right in here. And then it pushed up a little bit. And it turned around and came back. Well, as soon as it got back to my entry, I knew it wasn't going to push. There just wasn't enough there to get it going. So I exited the trade. And then I didn't even reverse the trade. I just got out of the trade because it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. So I just got out of it, which means, the next stage would be that it was going to pull back to more of like a cipher type pattern, which is, sort of what happened, right? So we were looking at something like this, a longer pullback. So you basically pulled back past this little piece over here, and then potentially a push up, because you have a potential retrace that comes out of that. And it pushed back to VWAP, right around VWAP, which is kind of what I'd expected. I expected us to get a push toward VWAP. It just took too long. So, I got in another trade down here. Let's look down. All right, so we had another little W that set up here too. So I got in a trade right about here. More specifically, probably right in here somewhere. And so then, I just kind of sat in it and I scaled out a bit right here. And then I took a lot more of it here, and then I got out of it somewhere right in here when it started to kind of dance around into close. So that's how I traded the day today. I didn't trade a lot. I only made really 2 trades. I made this trade that I got, it kind of got reversed on me. And then I got in this other trade and just kind of rode it out for the rest of the day. On days like today, you have to be very careful because while there's a lot going on if you are a bit of a scalper, there's not near as much going on if you are not, set up for these smaller plays. And if you're playing the SPY, if you're scalping, I mean, you've got to be able to dump 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 shares, right? So I don't know a lot of people that actually scalp on the SPY because it takes a nice account size to be able to do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if we might finish out that pattern tomorrow. We'll have to see. The other pattern I was kind of talking about back here. We really haven't pushed up enough. If we look at the retrace here, we haven't pushed up from this point. I don't think we pulled back 38.2%. Yeah. So there's just not a real harmonic going on from here. I don't think we even did from here. Yeah, we never really reached 38.2% from that peak up there. Only really from this did we reach 38. Actually, we still haven't yet. So only just did we get to it here. Yeah, so I mean, this was really just a lame day. And I looked at this earlier, but I really didn't think all that much about it. So yeah, this is just one of those days where people lose money. I mean, it's very easy to lose money on a day like today. So one of the things, if anybody asks me, I mean, usually I would just say, if there's no setup that you see, don't trade. If you can't scalp it, don't trade. If you don't understand how to do all that. And scalping is not, oh, it looks like it's going to go. It's going to go. It's going to pop. It's got that look. That's not scalping. That's gambling. Scalping is using these same tools on these larger time frames. Well, this is a shorter time frame, but typically I look for an all-day setup. I don't look for something where I just scalp in and out. So but scalping is exactly the same. It's just way faster. You don't do anything different. It's a very similar strategy. You're just zoomed in, right? You're really, really, really zoomed in, and you're looking at these little micro moves, right? Because if you were to look, all the same things that you see on those bigger time frames, right here as well. Same stuff. Failed patterns, left and right. Just a lot of failed patterns today. And on days like today, when you start looking at these little patterns and you look at all the failed patterns that have occurred today, which was pretty much all of them, unless you get into these real small time frames. I'd heard somebody mention at Open there was a setup which actually calls this pullback, but I'm not looking. I don't usually play the Open. Sometimes I do, but not usually. But yeah, so there wasn't really a lot going on today. If you played today and you did a nice job and you made some money, good for you. If you didn't and you didn't play it, even better for you. Because that means you know yourself well enough to know that you're just going to get burned. If you did get in something and it went against you, I hope you got out of it as you should have. I hope you had a good plan. And if you got in something that went against you and all you thought in your head was, no, it's going to go, it's going to turn back around, it's going to bounce, it's going to go to the moon, then you need to practice more, because that's not what happens on days like today. I mean, it's not what happens. I mean, the amount of volume today just didn't seem like that much. And anything that kind of moved up, it started getting sold into as well. So I haven't gone back and looked at divergence or anything like that yet. I'm really just getting called up from the last week. And, I got out of bed and just kind of sat down and started looking at what was coming. I didn't really trade all that much. I made 2 trades, like I said. So, yeah, that's a recap for today. There's not a lot going on, but, something that I did want to talk about is the fact that I got in a trade today that went against me. And what did I do? I got right out of it. As soon as I got back to my entry and I realized it wasn't actually going to go the direction I thought, that the move just kind of died. And so I got out of it. And that's just what you have to do. You have to be smart in this game. Because if you're not smart, base hits is what wins a game. Football games are won, 3, 4, 5, 10 yards at a time. That's just how things are done. Most of the time, unless you're all juiced up on steroids, nobody's winning baseball games with consistent home runs all the time. So same with stock trading. It's the same thing. You have to have a strategy. You have to trust it. And when it goes against you, you have to sit back and, find a new setup. So anyway, as I always say, I hope these things are helpful. If they're not, I'll probably just keep making them for me anyway. So feel free to argue with me in the comments, or constructively converse. Let's say that. And I'll keep making these things. I'll look forward to making more, and I'll be back for 2 weeks, and then I'll go on another trip, and then I'll be back for probably through the end of the year. So I will hopefully, possibly, probably, maybe see you tomorrow. So until then, thanks. Peace.